and you can make the screen share fairly small by sliding it over sideways. And then you can have,
but between that and being able to see the chat and the participants and stuff, it's
Yeah, it's a lot for sure.
too much.
That's why I love having two screens. So if you ever see me looking at something that isn't you, it means I'm looking at the other screen.
Okay, at 6 o'clock, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Actually, I got to read something. I got to go get it. Sorry. My apologies. As chair of the Northwood Select Board and due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, executive order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. There is no physical location. If you want to access this meeting, you do so via Zoom, and Zoom also includes a means to access via your phone. The meeting was posted with this information. There's going to be a mechanism for the public to be to alert if there's a problem, and that will be by calling Susan.
Yep.
You want to?
Yep.
What number do you want them to use, Susan?
Area code 607-322-6232.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. Same number then. I could have read that off.
That's okay.
Okay. And if we have trouble with this meeting electronically, the meeting will be automatically stopped. You might not necessarily hear a motion or a vote for adjournment. I'm going to do everything by roll call, and that includes attendance. So, Matt Fry.
Present.
Pam Sanderson.
Present.
Beth Boudreau.
Present.
And Tim Colby.
Present.
And I'm Hal Kreider. Okay, at this point, I'd like everybody to rise, face the nearest flag, and pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag. The United States of America.
One nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're now going to move into citizens forum. I know that there's some folks that would like to speak. What I'd like folks to do, and I got to look at my notes here, is raise your hand. You do so by going to the bottom of your screen, and there's something that's called reactions, and you can give me a thumbs up or something like that. And that way.
Can I clarify that a little bit, Hal? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So if you click the participants tab, that'll open up the window with everyone in the meeting. At the bottom of that window, you'll have an option that says raise hand. That puts you at the top of our participants list. So whereas the reaction
Yes, got it.
does not.
Good. Okay. Well, my notes aren't so good then, are they? Okay. So let's see if anybody wants to try that. Mr. McClure, I think you had indicated you want to speak. You want to give that a try, and let's see how it works. Matt, I have to say I'm not seeing anybody jump to the top of the list.
No one has raised their hand. We need to unmute Mr. McClure.
Bill, hold on just a second.
Certainly.
we want to just see if we can get this to work. Okay, so we knew, because you emailed me, I knew you wanted to speak. But just help us out a little bit to get this working right. Matt, can you go over again, please, how they're supposed to have raised their hands?
So, Bill, at the bottom of your window, you'll see a tab that says Participants. If you click that,
Yes.
it'll pop up a window to the right side of your screen, and then at the bottom of that new window, there should be something that says Raise Hand. Do you have that option?
I don't see that here. And I'm familiar with what you mean. Oh, here, way over. Yes.
There it is. So see how Bill popped right to the top of the list now, guys?
He did not pop to the top of my list.
Yeah, it is. For the participants on the far right side.
Yeah, I'm looking there.
I see what you're saying.
He's not at the top, but he's close to the top.
So it'll be under the host and under yourself.
Oh.
Like the third one down, Hal.
Yeah, I see it now. Okay.
And it's got the little blue hand.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, I have the chat going too, so that doesn't help.
And Hal, I'm happy to manage this aspect of the process if you would like.
I think that would help,
Yep.
Matt. It's
Happy to.
difficult enough as it is.
Yep, happy to.
Okay, so thank you. So at this point, I'm going to recognize Bill McClure. Bill, well, I already stated your name and stuff, so why don't you start your 3 minutes of citizens input?
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. This is the topic of the assessment tax reassessment. And I'm going to keep it very cordial, by the way. I've got a couple of points that I'd like to make. First is why I'm a little concerned of why there wasn't ongoing news about the full reassessment of the property throughout the town, and that it was ongoing, and to have had updates as it went along. Second point is when it was known that the reassessments had significantly increased, why was there no news before the tax bills were sent out? My sense is that the COVID might have been an excuse for some of those delays, but I don't certainly think it was a reason for that. And in summary, I think as taxpayers, we deserve better and a more honest set of communications coming from the town officials regarding a very important topic where the reassessment was at many cases 50% increase, which is huge despite being just 5 years, but is a huge increase. And my final question is, going forward, what's next steps? Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Does anybody else want to speak during Citizens Forum?
So for other folks who would like to speak, please click the Participants tab at the bottom of your screen. And then the window that will pop up to the right of your screen, you're going to hit the tab that says Raise Hand. If you're struggling with that, the alternative would be to send a message to one of the hosts, either Susan or myself, this being Matt, would be a good person to send a message to through the chat feature.
Or put your camera on and do this.
Yep, that works too.
I might have to do that because I hit participants and everybody's names come up, but I don't see any raised hands.
It's under
That's
the
because
more part.
you're a host. That's the problem, Tim. Betsy, Bill's hand went back up.
Just a very short addendum. Unofficially, my comments represent 8 or 10 other families on our road on Genis Pond that we've been emailing and communicating back and forth, trying to everybody collectively learn a little bit. So unofficially, some other folks I'm speaking for. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Bill.
And then we had one other quick hand go up and then down again, Mr. Chairman. So Betsy, if you did want to speak, please put that hand back up
Or somehow signal us.
or let us know.
We'll take it, any form of indication we'll take. I guess the related question for the board is, Betsy did send a note in. What's the board's pleasure in terms of reading that into the record? If you think it's appropriate, speak up. Otherwise, we all got a copy of it.
I'm okay with it either way.
Okay, then we'll just take it as input received directly as email. Okay.
I'm not seeing anybody else, Mr.
I'm
Chairman.
not seeing anybody else either. So at this point, I think we'll move on into the ongoing business. We have 2 sets of minutes. Do I have a motion? Well, first off, is there a discussion on any of the, any edits on the November 10th minute? And I apologize for no eye contact, but I'm scrolling over to that on my screen.
I got a couple, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Tim.
On November 10th, on page 6, line 28 and 30, his name is Rad, R-A-D, not Red. Just something silly, but
Can
His
you repeat that, please, Tim? I want to just see it, please.
page 6, lines 28 and 30.
28.
Mr. Messenger's name is Rad, R-A-D, not Red as a color.
Yeah,
R-A-D.
I wasn't sure.
So no, it's just
Yeah,
Rad Messenger.
let's get it right. Let's get it right.
I think that there's another name I got wrong too when Chris was talking.
Yeah, that Propelio or Propelio Construction. I'm not.
yeah.
I heard him real quick when he said that, but I didn't catch it in the meeting either, Susan. So but we can
tried
put a question
Googling
mark
it.
next to that, but I'm not sure that Propelli or Propoli or.
Chris is here if we'd like him to.
Oh, is he? Okay. Oh, yeah,
Confirm
public works,
us.
look at
Do we want to unmute Chris?
Yeah, why don't we? Let's
So that
get
would be-
it out.
that. Page 6, line 27, I guess.
So it's
Yep. Propel.
I asked him to unmute, so.
Is he
Okay.
there?
Hello. Can you guys
Hello?
hear me?
Yep.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Chris, what's the excavation company you're hiring 2 contractors? Is it Propel or how do you pronounce that?
It's Purpra.
Perpla?
Purpra. Yeah, Purpra excavation.
So how do you know how to spell it?
P-U-R-P-R-A, I believe.
Oh, Perpra.
Yeah, Purpra.
Okay, we'll look into it. We just want to.
Well, it's a better start than we had, that's for sure. What else?
Perpra, okay.
Okay.
Anything
That's all
else?
I had.
Anybody else? Okay, so then what I'm looking for is a motion to approve the minutes with the edits as noted. Do I have a motion to that effect by Tim? Do I have a second?
Second by Matt.
Second, thank you. Any further discussion?
Susan, when I just Googled it, it's P-U-R-P-U-R-A.
Ooh.
That's so weird because I tried Googling it and I couldn't find it. Okay.
You
I think I was
have to
doing
have a pretty good start to, before you get the right answer.
Okay.
If you're starting
Thank
off
you.
with a bad guess, it doesn't work.
Thank you.
Welcome on.
Okay, so with that amendment, everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, then all those in favor of approving those minutes as edited, please raise your hand or signal.
I believe you still need to take roll call votes.
Oh, you're absolutely right. How do you vote?
Me?
No, Tim. Oh, I'm
Tim,
Oh.
sorry.
well, yeah, okay. So,
Good, yes.
Tim is yes. Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
and Pam,
Yes.
and Hal is yes also. Thank you for that little help there. Appreciate it. Okay, we're ready to move on to the 17th. Adjustments or changes to that.
Page 1, line 10.
Hold on, I'm scrolling down, please.
It should say November 17th.
I saw that one too.
So I was like, wait, did we not get the 17th?
Oh, yeah, I guess that's kind of an important one, isn't it? Okay, very good.
Actually, the cover page, page 1, line 10. The heading is, should be November 17th.
She's on a 3-second delay. We just got that, Pam.
Ah,
Okay, well, that reminds me, Walter, we need to think about what we can do to improve her service. Okay, and I've got one on, let's see, page 2 of 5, line 48. This has to do with the road surface management plan, and I'm reading from line 47. Mr. Johnson stated he spoke with Mr. Burdine at Stratford Regional Planning, and he informed him that Stratford Regional Planning will update this plan at, and I believe it should say no charge. Is that correct, Walter?
Yes, that's correct.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's an important factor given that it might be up to $10,000. I think the no should be noted there. Anything else that anybody else wants to add to that? Okay, if not, then I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes as we discussed with those 2 edits.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
second.
Second, thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Tim.
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here.
Okay, right. Okay, thank you. And Hal is yes. Okay. Very good. Thank you for that. We're now going to move on to the consent agenda. Paul, why don't you read off the 2 items that we do have, if you would, please? You're muted, so yeah, there you go.
So I do apologize for those that might not have it. I did have a bit of issue sending that out this past week, but for those that do or can see it over the online version, I have accounts payable manifest dated the 25th of November, batch 15173 for $523,620.93. And I have the payroll manifest dated December 2nd, 2020 for batch number 15177 for $87,280.41.
Okay, and just again, so the public knows, these are all sent out to us electronically for review, and they get scrutinized prior to the meeting and signed off in the meeting. This is main purpose of this is to announce what the dollars are, what we're spending, and just as a bit of I guess, a piece of information related, the very large AP run included $475,000 for the school payment. So that's the vast bulk of that particular one. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or want to take anything off the consent agenda, given that we're just basically acknowledging the payments? If not, then I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Roll call vote. Beth,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Okay, so that's the consent agenda. Up next is Walter with his TA report and all the items that he has in terms of items for board action. I would just like to let folks know that Walter will be talking some more about the appraisals. So that'll be part of what he's going to report on. Walter, do you want to take over, please?
I sure will. Good evening, everybody. Starting my report for this week is the staffing update. Applications are still being received for the finance director's position. We plan to start the first interviews on this Friday. Regarding the 2020 property assessments, as you know, several taxpayers have been inquiring about their new property tax assessment. Jeff Earls, our contract assessor, is scheduling telephone hearings with taxpayers. His next scheduled date is December 9th. He had several that took place today. Please, if you'd like to schedule an appointment to talk with Jeff over the phone, he's not doing face-to-face hearings at this point in time due to the the COVID-19 surge for everybody's safety. But please call the assessing office to schedule a phone appointment if you have questions regarding the new assessment. Please understand, because of the volume of calls that we're taking, we do ask that you be patient. The person that typically gets those calls and messages only works in the mornings until 1 p.m. So please, if you leave a message, Carol will get back to you and schedule an appointment for you or answer any questions that you have. But please understand we're not ignoring you. We're simply just trying to stay ahead of the call volume at this point with a part-time person.
Walter, could I interrupt, please? And just so people aren't confused, Carol's extension is 2019.
Correct.
Yep. You can leave messages elsewhere and the appropriate people will pick up those messages, but in terms of expediting getting you scheduled, you need to call Carol at 2019. That's what he was referring to. And please use that extension.
So if you're not satisfied with the results of your discussion with the assessor, you may apply to the New Hampshire Board of Tax and Land Appeals. The deadline for applying to the BTLA is March 1st of 2021. We have the link to the BTLA application on our town website under the assessing page. It's about just above where the new tax rate information is displayed. There's a click button there that says click here, and that'll take you directly to a fillable form on the Department of Revenue Administration's website. It's important to note for the board that in some cases, because of the increase in the assessments, we have some of our elderly property owners who qualify for exemptions and perhaps were not seeing tax bills because of the value of their property and now seeing them because of the increases. So that's something that the board will have to consider as abatements come in and perhaps look at in the future our elderly exemptions and study those and see if they need to be adjusted at some point in time in the future.
Walter, I'm going to interrupt because Tim has his hand up. Is this related to what he's saying right now, Tim?
Yes, I had actually the assessor call me 3 times today looking for another number. So my number must be close to, he was looking for a Mr. Thompson on, I think, 22 Thompson Lane. He's left a message at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock and 3:15 with my number. So I want to make sure, I think his name was Mr. Thompson. The assessor was looking for Mr. Thompson. He called my number 3 times. So I just want to make sure that gets back in the loop. So.
Okay.
Good.
I think they were looking for Thompson Lane, which is right around the corner from me, but our numbers must be similar. The house numbers.
Carol will figure it out.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of going forward, We will be looking at values on a year-to-year basis closely to make sure that we're not getting the type of gap that took place over the last 5 years in terms of property values, and hopefully avoid this significant spike in evaluations from a 5-year period. So we will be monitoring that closely and hopefully avoid this type of a spike in the future by doing perhaps shorter intervals. And that would be looking at the market to determine whether it needs to be adjusted both up or down. So that's really the information I wanted to convey regarding the 2020 property assessments.
I see John wants to speak also. John, you're muted, please. Unmute, please. We have to. Can you? There we go.
Yes. Just a couple of observations. One, the entire increase for the annual bill occurs on the second half bill. So it looks like it's double the impact of what it is. Normally it would be spread over the two bills, but because the first bill went out based off last year's, the second bill shows a bigger increase, which is related to that impact. So that's just something to be aware of. Also, the town as a whole went up 42%.
In terms of assessed value.
Assessed value.
Yeah.
So John, why did it go up? Why? I mean, I understand it went up, but why would we already paid your June tax bill. So why wouldn't it have gone up from June to December?
Well, the June tax bill is based off half of last year's, basically. It's the half of last year's rate times your old assessment. So consequently,
was voted in though in March.
What?
And everything that was voted for in March.
That doesn't enter into the June bill. The June bill is half of last year's tax bill. It's just they don't calculate what the rate is, and they don't change the assessment.
What was our rate last year then? What was our June rate?
Your June rate, if your tax rate last year was 477, your June rate should have been 238, something like that.
No, now it's 1770s. What was it before?
2252.
So
423. Well, I'm talking just the municipal side is what I'm talking about, but actually it would be for the whole thing.
If assessment went up by 42%, I understand that it goes up. And so, all right, it went up by almost half. Shouldn't we have set our tax rate lower than 1770? Because I'm saying it's going to be like an extra $500,000 that we'll be receiving in revenue that we really shouldn't be receiving. We're not in it to make money. We're in it to make ends meet.
When you look at everything that's involved in terms of the amount that needed to be raised, the projection for revenue, there would have been a tax increase even if we hadn't done a revaluation.
Right, but not by 42%.
Well, 42% is the change in the average assessment, state town-wide, the entire town.
Right, but before we voted on the 1770, you said a small increase for some, a decrease for some, but when we lowered the tax rate to 1770, it was going to kind of alleviate that. No one should have gotten a surprise bill of $1,000 to $2,000 difference. No one should have gotten that. We had no idea that was coming.
Well, what I was trying to explain about the $1,000 is if normally it would have been next year, it will be spread out so that 500 would be in June and 500 would be in December. You're seeing double the impact because your June bill, you only paid half off last year's bill.
I think, though, to Beth's point, there are a couple factors when we did the calculation that come into this. And John, you're going to have to correct me if I get this wrong. But for example, we took the advice of folks in terms of the revenue projection, and we reduced the revenue, which means we had to raise more in taxes. We didn't know we were going to have the revaluation, and we did have to leave, John, again, I think the number is about $100,000 extra for changes in the assessment valuations. that had to be raised also. So right there is several $100,000 that is more than we would have had to raise otherwise. And
Your taxes would have gone up even if you had not done a revaluation. And it would have gone up to raise almost the same amount. But you're correct, Hal, that there is 100,000 in there that's just for giving abatements and refunds as needed because of the evaluation. That number is new. We were conservative on revenue because everyone kept saying we were going to have trouble with revenue collection. All of those things add up.
And then I think the other big item was we did have the paving as separate warrant, and that added $350,000. So if you add all those up, that's several $100,000 delta. And that all had to be part of what was raised.
I think 1770 was too much. I think that we have just bitten ourselves. We're going to vote on no on everything come March. People are not going to be able to afford their taxes. I mean, even if your taxes in your mortgage, so you're not paying it, your mortgage will be up to the extra $200 a month for this year's, plus the $200 for next year's. There's no way. We did not know, and we're taking the blame for all of this, and we did not know that people were going to be paying $2,000, $3,000 more. 3 weeks. You got a 3-week notice. People should be upset with us because I'm upset with us. None of us knew this was happening. We know how. No one knew we were going to get a $3,000 extra tax bill and have 3 weeks to come up with that money.
I'm not sure what we would have done different. Maybe that's something we should discuss.
I think we probably
got,
discussed the numbers a lot more than what we did then.
well, as soon as we got the assessment, we sent out the information.
People know, though, that Hal, people should have known before the 3 week. You have 3 weeks. I got my tax bill on Friday, a week and a half after everybody else, because I sent Marissa 2 emails saying, I need a tax bill. I need my tax bill. Friday, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
This is not okay. People can't afford this.
Well,
you think we're going to need a tan? We're going to need more than the tan.
I think if you want to suggest a motion to do something, do it. I'm at a loss, quite frankly.
I need to look into this. People can't afford this.
Yeah, but what specifically do you want us to do, Beth?
I think we need to take time and look at this. I don't know. This is not my job. I teach 5-year-olds. We pay people to do this job, and I feel as though we were not informed. And if any other board member feel that way?
Well, I'll let others speak first. Go ahead. Anybody else want to speak?
So I'll say that, I was expecting an increase, but not to the level that the town got whacked with. So, I think the way that it was explained was that Waterfront was going to take a hit based on the reval, which, that it is what it is. And that we do need to raise taxes. We need to bring money in to run the town. But yeah, no, I felt a little blindsided by the sheer size of the increase of the revaluation and the impact that had, even dropping to 17. To me, we're going to be left with some unanticipated revenue, which I'd like to see us then dump back in and buy down the next rate. But that's not going to help the people who can't afford their taxes right now.
Pam or Tim, do you want to speak to that?
Go ahead, Pam.
Go ahead, Tim, please.
I'm still learning the whole process, so I'm still kind of up and down. I mean, so I'm just trying to, learn from any other people. So go ahead, Pam.
I'm with Tim as far as the learning curve. And I got hit, and Unfortunately, over the years in Northwood, I've just kind of gotten used to getting hit. It just seems to happen out of the blue. From like the first tax bill we ever got, we wondered if gold had been buried on the property because the value just, you know, doubled, and we were like, what, you know, what happened? And they were explaining, you know, things like you have a well, you have a septic system, all of those things add value. And then, you know, looking at our homes, I mean, anything that's attached, I mean, like a stove hood is you know, like taxable when they come. I know I had a weather vane, and that was included in tax. So anything and everything. So yeah, I got hit this year pretty hard, but I looked back through my previous tax records, and with different rates, 2018 was probably the worst year. So you know, it fluctuates up and down, but this is a dramatic increase for an awful lot of people. I don't know what you can do though. I don't think that at this point, and Hal and Walter and all, that the tax rate can't be adjusted, or can it be adjusted? You know, is it, you know, what happens? Because if it does seem like it's you know, the decrease in rate just doesn't compensate for the increase in assessment.
Well, I think it depends on who you talk to, quite frankly. There are people whose taxes actually did go down. I think in this particular situation, and I'm going to speak, and I'm going to ask Walter to cut me off if I'm straying or missing the point. But in this particular valuation, what I noticed is this. The land value went up quite a bit. Lots near me that for years languished at an asking price of $50,000 have recently sold for well over $100,000. Backwoods, woodlots, one of which I bought a while ago, tripled. It's just land. Can't even access it except through a right-of-way. Tripled.
Ace.
So if you have property where a good portion of your value is in the land, your assessments went up disproportionately more. Again, this is according to what I see, primarily because the land prices have gone up so dramatically. I know that's not the full explanation, and I know that doesn't really make people feel any better per se, because having a higher value on your property doesn't help you pay the taxes. I understand that. What I think we as a board need to do is discuss, and I'm willing to do that right now if you'd like. And if you'd like time to think about it, that's fine too. But I think we need to discuss, okay, what do we do differently? I mean, we publicized the rate calculation that was presented at a meeting by John. I think we even posted it. It had all that information on there. I mean, when this question came up, I was able to pretty quickly find the tax rate calculation that John did and submitted, and we all signed off on the forms. So I don't know what we can do differently.
Well, we did sign off on the forms, Hal. We did agree to 1770, but we didn't know people's land was going to double. We didn't know that.
Well, none of us knew the details of how the assessment sorted out. You're absolutely right about that. We knew overall that the assessment was much higher, and I personally will take that as a learning experience where when there's that much difference, you can almost expect, now that I know, that there's going to be some pretty big discrepancies in some people's valuations when it goes up 50% on average. So yes, you got to expect, now hindsight's 20/20 for me, but you got to expect apparently that some of them are going to go up 70% and some of them are going to go up, 5%, but on average it's 44%. And I'm taking to heart what Walter said. We need to keep an eye on this, and we need to think about doing some revaluations. Maybe it's sector by sector, so maybe you do waterfront, maybe you do waterfront in a certain area every so often, maybe you do commercial more regularly. But given how quickly the market's gone up, I'm really not sure what we could have played differently, but I'm willing to open that discussion up, like I say, and do some soul searching. But
Did the assessor go to every single house and look at every single thing?
I looked at probably 300.
No, did the assessor actually go to every house and look at, because it says I have a pool. I have had a pool since 2009.
Well, John, I'm going to let you speak to that since you might know more than me.
Over the last 4 years, the assessor was supposed to go around doing a quarter of the town each year so that all of the town was reviewed over the last 5 years.
So 11 years ago,
In terms of what amenities they have, correct, John?
Well, that if they don't get into the house or they don't have access, they may not be able to update the card. But the town has been doing a review every year, in which the intention was to get to all properties that they could get to look at and to make sure they updated the features that were a part of the card. Now, if they didn't get access, they might miss a pool that was removed or a pool that was added or a bathroom that was removed. Or
I don't think Beth says she has an indoor pool.
the pool's outside.
Yeah.
In 2009, it came down. That's 11 years ago.
No, you still got the river out back. They call that the pool.
Seriously speaking, then, Beth, I mean, just like for anybody else, that's something where you should be going into the assessor and saying, here's a feature that I have no longer, and I want my tax adjusted for that. And
I'm looking at that thinking, how many other people did he not really go look at?
oh, he doesn't go look at them all.
Well,
We
he
paid
tries to get to them all.
$80,000 last year for him to go look at them all, and $55,000 the year before, and $55,000 the year before. We paid almost $500,000 for assessing.
Are you sure about that? I don't.
It was $88,000 last year because it wasn't budgeted. Remember?
Right.
About that?
Yeah, but
55, or $250,000. Sorry, quarter.
Yeah, quarter.
some of that was for, there's two parts to the assessment. The one part is looking at what is on the property and documenting it. That's what John's referring to when he says they went around over 4 years. So like for my house, I know they were out there measuring just last year. They were checking the footprint to see if I added on or not compared to what was on the tax card. So that's one part of it. But then the other part of the assessment is taking all those pieces of data and matching it to what the market is basically bearing right now. So I think, Beth, there's really two parts to this that you and others have to think about. The one is the information right? And, just as an example, if there's no pool there where there was one, you got to go tell them to take that off your list of assets and your taxes will reduce appropriately. But what I don't believe you or anybody, myself included, can do is change what somebody might be willing to pay for my house. I mean, I might not be willing to pay what they're saying it's assessed for, but I got to tell you, based on other transactions that I've seen and done, People are paying the price. And I think that's really the struggle. Matt, I think
Yeah, I just want to chime in that I think that's one of the issues we're dealing with right now in terms of what feels like an immense increase is that we've sort of gotten used to our assessed value not necessarily being in line with market value, and this process was getting those more in line, and then that is where we do need to be. I just think that process is a bitter pill to swallow for a lot of folks, and but you're right. I think it's that's the biggest single piece to this, is that homes in this town are selling for lots and lots of money, which as a homeowner, that's great someday. The issue is just making sure that for now, we're not putting people out of their homes.
Yeah, and I think, I'll be real upfront with this. I feel bad because a lot of the turmoil is a result of smaller houses going up quite a bit more fast than the larger houses. And so it disproportionately hurts the folks that maybe can't handle it or can handle it the least. And yeah, I mean, I just look at a little house down the road from me that it sold for well over appraised value. It's just, I mean, it's just crazy in some cases, but that's what things are based on.
So question.
Go ahead, Pam.
So what you're saying is, and maybe if I'm reading John and Walter correctly, that next year and the year after, we watch market prices and all. So would our homes be, or our tax bills be adjusted? Is it the tax rate that would be adjusted down because of market valuation, or would it be the assessed value of our homes that would be a percentage decrease? I mean, how does that work if we're watching what happens with, say, home prices?
I'm going to let John speak to that first.
It's like a seesaw between the tax rate and the assessment. Once you determine how much money you need to raise in taxes, then the more you raise assessment, the lower the rate. The more you raise, if the assessments drop, the rate will go up to cover it, because you've got to raise a certain amount of money. So this reval did nothing to change the amount of money the town is raising. The town is only raising the amount of money that is allowed by DRA based on town meeting revenue, the amount we have for overlay, the votes that were taken. So the amount of money, that total tax bill for the entire town, doesn't change. The apportionment changes based upon a person's relative share of the total, so that when the assessment went up 42%, ideally everybody would go up 42%, but as Hal noted, some went up 30 and some went up 70. Those who went up 70 are the ones who are getting hit with the largest increases.
Huge.
Yeah, and as I said, to me, when this came up, I went on to the town assessing data. I was on there for not hours, but for days, trying to figure out, what the issues or concerns were. Unfortunately, the assessor is required by law to go with the sales data. He has no other option. He can't, there is, when you sell a property, you can say, well, was it sold under duress? Was there special circumstances, this, that, and the other, and that all gets factored in. But he can't make up the data. He has to go by the actual sales figures. And I mean, we can talk about how the numbers, this, that, or the other, but I really would like to talk about, let's have a look at this in terms of what could we do to make this at least easier. Beth, go ahead.
I'm not saying that our assessment is crazy, because if we were gonna put our house on Zillow, that's probably what they would say it'd be worth.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I think the 1770 is too high. You can't all of a sudden make something be, 42% or 70% more, worth more. If the $23 should have been cut down to like 14. I just think the 1770 is too much. And I would like to know exactly, money penny for penny, if we kept it at where it was supposed to be in the 1770. I want to know what the difference was going to be.
Okay, well, I think that we can do because we have the detailed numbers on that. I don't think we're prepared to bring those up at, right this instant, but we could for the 15th review those numbers and see. And if that would be appropriate, well, I shouldn't say it's appropriate. It is appropriate. So Walter, why don't we plan on doing that? And we'll try to get some answers from that. I mean, at least we might know a little bit more detail and either, explain it more clearly, or at least, have the basis for the numbers and be able to point them out. Now, John, maybe, I don't know, can you speak more to that at this point, or do we need to?
In my memo on the town side, not the entire tax bill, but the town portion of the tax bill, I did the calculation and it would have gone from $4.77 to $6 if there had been no change in the assessed value. If we had kept the same assessed valuation, the rate would have gone up 26%.
The town portion.
Town portion, to meet the tax commitment that was needed by the town, it went up 26%. So the tax bill would have gone up 26% on average if there had been no revaluation. Because of the revaluation, some went up more and some went up less than that. But that's what would have happened using last year's tax rate with this year's tax commitment. It would have come out to $6, whereas last year it was $4.77.
Can you do the numbers, including the school numbers? I know it's not really our department, but it is part of our tax bill that we sent everybody.
Oh, yeah, that's not hard to do. In fact, I'll try to do them right now. I mean, I'll get back, keep going, and I'll come back with a number.
So, John, if we discovered that we could lower the tax rate, I'm just saying, to $17.23. Can that? I just picked that number. I mean, I'd like to have it be $12, but can we do that?
No, you can't change the tax rate at this point.
What's the reasoning for that? I mean, I'm sure there's like an LMNOP law, but what is it?
Well, I mean, you've already sent out the bill and people have started paying it. I don't know if DRA would let you go back and, for example, use more fund balance to buy down some of the rate or something like that. But that's the only way, you could increase your revenue estimates. As I indicated, I was very conservative on revenue. They have come in fairly well. So we could have gone to higher revenue. So you might be able to tweak it a little based upon that revenue and upon, use of some fund balance. You could change the town side, but it's not going to change the school side any. It's not the state share of education or the county side. It's just going to change that $4.77 that went down to $4.23.
I'd still like to come back to, okay, I understand hindsight's 20/20 and stuff, but now that we have that vision, what does the board think we might have done differently? And let's not do it to just, let's do it to try to figure out next time how to be smarter about this. Matt.
So I think folks should have gotten letters from the town or the assessor with the updated revaluation numbers as that process was going on. And I think that's a big piece of what we missed. So the reval was, I think, the biggest surprise here. It's not necessarily the tax rate that people are having a hard time swallowing. You know, the tax rate went down. So it's the reval that's the issue. And I think if that information had been sent out earlier, and again, timing is not ideal in this circumstance, right? It was completed not that long ago. So
No, that's,
I think that was one of the biggest issues. So in our next revaluation, you know, some process to let folks know, here's your updated home value, which just allows people to anticipate a potential, you know, property tax increase regardless of rate, and just start socking something away if they're afraid that they're going to get hit again. You know, I took a pretty good whack on this bill, and I'm going to be able to absorb it, but I'm lucky, right? So it's not the Matt Fry's of the world that I'm worried about right now. It's the other end of that spectrum.
okay, so let's, I think that's an excellent point, and we got, you know, two guys with a lot of experience here. Let's just work that backwards, Matt. John or Walter, what is the earliest we can complete a reassessment and have it still valid for the next tax bill goes out? So in other words, just as an example, if, and I understand we had problems this year, you know, getting the assessment, all the assessment factors in and done. But had we been able to do that, so let's say we would have been able to do it in June 30th. Is that still then good data going forward, or what? John?
Yeah, that would be good data. This year, in part because of COVID, DRA and the town had not finalized the contract until well into July, so he couldn't even get started, and therefore he was late. Because of that, it impacted the not sending out the letters like Matt mentioned or holding hearings, because we were trying to avoid borrowing a TAN, and we were trying to get the total evaluation in as quick as we could so we could get a tax rate set so we wouldn't have to borrow money to make the county payment in December. And we did that with a couple of days to spare. I mean, it was tight. So there, the contract, if you start off with a contractor early in the year and you have that contract signed, approved, the assessor can do the work. There's no reason it couldn't be done in June, July and August, talking about the values. September 1 is the target date that DRA wants for the total assessed value on the property to be in. So, yeah, that's it.
John,
Okay.
why did it wait until July to get all this paperwork done? Because we knew about this.
Well, I wasn't here. When I arrived, my understanding is
Read
Jim
between the
Hadley had
lines.
pulled the contract and wanted to talk about it or review it. It sat there, and one of the first things I did was to get that process started, but it still took time. DRA was, I think, 2 weeks in approving it. We had to adjust it. I think, in fact, the board signed 2 different versions of the contract because DRA made us adjust the contract. So all of those things entered into it. But basically, the contract with the assessor to do this was late in getting approved, and DRA requires it to be approved before he can do the work.
Okay. Matt, I'm going to just say, I think you raised an excellent point, and I think really what John's referring to is if we had done it by September 1st, then the notices could have gone out and there could have been a quote hearing period prior to the tax rate and everything else being set.
Well, actually, it should be done so that you're all done the hearings by September 1st. You should have it done in June so you can have July or early August hearings. The adjustments can be made and then you go forward.
Okay. So I think, you know, one of our lessons learned then is going to be come hell or high water, the assessments get done by June 30th. and we as a board are going to have to manage to that. And I think that'll go a long way. John, go ahead.
And the key to that is to have all the paperwork in place before your April 1 deadline. April 1, you have to go through and you look at new construction, building permits, and all of those things. It ideally, you do your measure and list each year ahead of that so that you can get your work in a timely fashion.
Yeah, well, I think you're absolutely right on that. The measuring and stuff didn't get done on time. And then on top of that, we didn't get the contract on time for the assessing. Matt.
So I just got one more thing that I'd actually like John to reiterate, which I think is really, really important point to make sure is clearly stated, which is we're not going to be sitting on a pot of money deciding, oh boy, what are we going to do with all this money, right? The tax rate was based on the updated valuations, all of the things that we had to put into that figure, and that anything that is additional, let's say revenue comes in stronger, then, this isn't, I just want to make it really clear. This is not a big farce in order for us to shove something down the throats of the taxpayers that hasn't been asked for. If we wind up with unanticipated revenue that's attached to this process somehow through additional revenue or tax revenues on, state or whatever, that we can't just go and spend that however we want without input. We need to have public hearings on that. So I just wanted to be really clear on that piece, that this isn't nefarious, and that we're not doing this in order to create some sort of BOS slush fund.
No, as a matter of fact, I'll just use the overlay as the example. There's $100,000 of extra taxes collected for the overlay, which means there's allowance for changes in assessed value challenges. And it can only be used for that. If we don't give back, quote, $100,000 in tax changes, that money can't go anywhere but back to the town, the town folk, I should say.
Yeah.
But we have to allow for that. And so that is part of the tax rate right now. John, I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
No, you're not interrupting me. I just raised my hand for when you finish, I'll get called. I wanted to follow up on what Matt said. DRA says the town can raise $12,148,848 for all purposes, school, county, and local. That's all we can raise. Now, there's a little bit of rounding that goes on, that goes into fund balance, or it comes out of fund balance as it rounds. But basically, that's what is going to be raised. Now, last year, that was a number in the 10 million range, and it required a tax rate of 22.52. If there had been no valuation, that rate would have gone to 25.58.
Okay.
So instead, because of the valuation, it dropped to 17.77.
Is everybody clear on that? Does everybody understand it? Anybody have any questions? John, I appreciate that additional info. I am going to say, though, I think it would be worthwhile if you could just make sure Walter has the documentation to go over that overall calculation for the tax rate setting, just so that people can rest assured that it was done properly. And we'll do that at the next meeting on the 15th.
Well, when they're setting the tax rate, we have an auditor. She's very experienced. She's been there a long time. She goes over all the numbers. And
state, John. This is the woman at the state.
Yes, Michelle Clark at DRA.
Yeah, I'll be fun with you.
And when she finishes with it, it then goes to her supervisor, the municipal side director, and he reviews it before the rate is set.
I don't think anybody is really challenging your calculations or work, John. I think it's more they just want to know what the numbers were that went into it and what's changed from the previous year. So if we can just, Walter, be ready to discuss that at the next meeting, I think that'll help. But from an overall perspective, I'll just say, I'm just going to say it. With Walter on board, I have a high degree of confidence that we're going to be able to manage these things better. He's obviously getting the message loud and clear. I don't think it could be much louder or much clearer.
I've heard it before.
Yeah, and I think we need, as a board, to have that as one of the items that we say, look, this has just got to be the way it's going to be, and we have to manage to it. We had difficulties over the past couple of years doing that, maybe, but I think going forward, I think we can do it. Any other ideas, Matt? Go ahead.
So just one more quick thing. So as I was trying to do my homework over the last several weeks on this, DRA has some really great resources available to taxpayers as well as municipal officials, especially around what constitutes a feature and stuff like that, which is, I think, some of the questions around those tax bills are lying. So maybe we could even get some of that stuff up on the town website or link to the DRA site for folks who are interested in poking at some of that.
And can I just add that DRA stands for what? Department of Revenue Administration. So that would be State of New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration. So when we say DRA, that's what we're referring to.
Right. And when you get into DRA, there's basically two branches. The major branch has to do with room and meals and all of the state taxes that are coming in, but there's a municipal and property side, and you want to go to the municipal and property side when you look at agencies under the state website under DRA.
So
Pam, go ahead. Go ahead, Pam.
Have you got me?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question on behalf of business owners in Northwood. I know that they have been hit hard also by taxes, and COVID is taking a tremendous strain on them this year. So as far as their tax bills, there are things that are in their tax bills that are business taxes. And I'm sure that they, on their behalf, would be asking for a bit of explanation there. I know a lot of that, the business and profit tax, comes down through the state. I guess my question would be on the town tax rate. How much do we take into consideration on businesses in their type of taxing? Or is that a whole separate ballgame?
Whole separate ballgame.
So who should they ask questions of?
The other branch of DRA, not the municipal side, but the business profit and tax, room and meals, the other side. But going to that same agency under state of New Hampshire, go to agencies and revenue. And then when you get, then when they get into the Department of Revenue, they go down in the tree, they go down the tree that's business.
And that would give them their itemization and explanations. So this assessment that we are talking about right now, a business that is on property obviously would have had a tax increase also, am I correct?
Well, they would have had an assessment increase for sure. But I did look at several different businesses, and for them, it was definitely a mixed bag. I saw quite a few that went down. I saw some that changed hardly any, and I saw some that went up. Where I think the most dramatic, and again, this is just, I just started looking at all kinds of stuff. So don't count it as a true statistic, but where I really saw the big delta was if you owned raw land, or if you owned a property where the value of the land was a fairly significant portion of your property value. I'll just say the assessing data is online. You can go online and look at any property on Northwood, and if you go to the tax card, the first tax card that's on the list, You can see what the current assessment is versus the assessment last year and the year before. So it's pretty easy to do. And I'm just giving you my observations, but you know, that's where I see the biggest change, unfortunately. Okay, I think we've had a good discussion on you know, how we handle this better next year, and let's just make sure we do it. I'm also seeing some chat notes coming up. One's for me, and it's asking about the difference in how much money we're raising. And I think that would all be part of the explanation that we'll get next meeting, you know, on the details between the two different, you know, 2019 versus 2020, the numbers that went in to set that rate. So Walter, you and I can discuss how we want to, you know, handle that. Maybe we take some of John's text and also maybe work up some other stuff with John. So just on that, if folks are trying to chat with me privately, I'm also trying to run the meeting, so it might be better to chat with the whole select board. One of them might be able to see your chat come in, because I just noticed this one just now, but on that particular one about how much money we raised, I feel uncomfortable trying to answer it without having all the rest of the details to support it. John?
Yeah, I think we have to be careful of private chats coming in.
Yes, well, that was part of the reason why I said it. And
right. In last year, you raised $10,830,000 total for the town, school, county, and this year you're raising $12,149,000. Those are rounded to the nearest thousand.
So 10 to 12.
10,830 to 12,148,000.
Okay, so I think next meeting we'll look at some of those deltas and see where the big changes are. At this point, I don't think we have the details, and without being prepared to talk about them, I'm a little bit uncomfortable going any further on that, unless the rest of the board wishes to do so.
Yeah, but we should note though that that increase is not just the town, it's also the school.
Yeah, well, let's be careful about, yeah, I understand what you're saying. We only control so much. We don't control the county, you know, and all that. Nonetheless, I will say this, we do control the process more than any of the other entities. And as Matt brought up, and as we talked, we could have done better on that.
Definitely.
Okay. I'm not going to make excuses. I mean, I think we know, you know, in part, you know, where the problems lie or laid. I think we're working on addressing some of that. But bottom line is, if, as John said, we should have really completed the process on the 30th of June and had all these things out by the September 1st. I think, yeah, people might still have been concerned about their values, but at least, as you or one of the other select board members said, it would have been a little bit easier to deal with. And that wasn't good. Let's just say it and move on and get it right. Anybody else want to comment or speak to that? Okay, if not, then Walter, I'm going to ask you to continue down through your list. And I apologize for the large diversion, but I think it was important to have that discussion.
Oh, I agree. Very good. So moving on, under the fire department staffing coverage, due to a number of members being unavailable over the last couple of weeks, we've had neighboring communities help us out for incidents through our mutual aid assistance. And so that's been good to have them, that we can count on them, and that's worked out well. winter road maintenance contract, those are getting signed. I think Chris has all but one signed as of this afternoon. But because the board's not meeting in person, I would like to see if the board would consider authorizing me to sign them on behalf of the town. You've looked at them and reviewed them already in their draft form.
What's the board's pleasure on that? We could have a vote to authorize Walter if you'd like.
I'd be happy to have Walter take that on.
I would second that.
So I'll make a motion to allow Walter to sign the winter road maintenance contracts on our behalf.
And I'll
Well-
still second it.
Thank you, Pam. Discussion?
I'll make sure it's all proof of insurance and all that. I'm sure he knows the deal, so no, I have faith in you. You've done this before, Walter, right?
Yes.
On the first rodeo.
Other discussion? Hearing none. Pam, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Tim?
Yes, yep.
Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. Okay, you're authorized up.
Thank you. So next item is a driveway issue. There was a letter in your packet from a property owner at 122 Bennett Bridge Road. The property owner had installed a second driveway to his property without the necessary permit, and he's requesting basically approval after the fact. DPW foreman Brown has inspected the driveway, and he suggested it be widened to 30 feet. It's currently 20 feet to accommodate turning fire apparatus. So this requires action from the board, with the options being to approve the after the fact as it is permit, require extension of the width, or deny outright, or approve subject to widening.
Okay, so Tim, you got your hand up. Why don't you go first?
I went down and looked at it this afternoon on the way home. That is not his primary access. It's just going to his barn, and he did put a 20-foot culvert in there. I probably would have liked a little bit more of a bowl on the uphill side for the culvert, the water collector runs through, but there's a tree right there he wants to save, and then a utility pole. So there's no way the culvert can extend uphill any, and downhill, he could add probably another 10, 15 feet before he gets into some other bigger trees. So, but that is not his primary avenue of approach. He's just for his barn access. So I don't see how, he could extend it probably 20 feet max downhill, but coming uphill, I don't see it going to come to 30 feet anyways. So.
Well, I guess.
This is just a primary access for the barn. His primary access for his house is wide enough to get the fire apparatus and stuff in.
But help me out. Would we just let the barn burn then, or?
The barn is accessible around the other side of the driveway. You can get from his household driveway he's using now to get to the barn. And
Oh, so it's not the only access to the barn?
No.
Okay. Okay. Further questions on this or further comments? Chris, do you want to add anything?
Chris is muted.
I'm not hearing you.
All right, try again, Chris.
There we go.
Yeah.
So through my time as public works foreman, I require 30 feet on all driveway accesses, as shown in every culvert permit I've done. So there's no exceptions to any of the rules that I don't bend them for anybody.
Is that a town policy or your policy? Is that somewhere written down though?
It's under the discretion of me. So, that's, if he had done a culvert permit and a driveway permit in the first place, he would have known that. So, either you accept it or deny it.
Well, he couldn't get into the town hall when he had to get going, so we can't help these people up. I'm working with you, but A lot of people did stuff. Now they're coming forward and admitting they did stuff so they can rectify the problem. So, we all need to work together to reach an agreement, seeing how we shut the town hall down for, half the year.
So Chris, the 30 feet is your recommendation. What was it before?
It was
What happened?
15.
15.
So why did you think that 30 was better? Like, what was the reasoning for that?
Just the access of, turning emergency equipment onto things like that. I mean, I've driven fire trucks for a long time. 15-foot driveways don't match, they don't work. So it's just easier for accessibility for suppression, services and things like that if anything were to happen.
Yeah, I'd have to say, I know what you're talking about. I put a 40-foot one in on Jennis Pond Road for just that reason. So I mean, I understand, and like when a truckload of gravel or something comes in, you need it. Okay.
Most of the subdivisions we did in Dover and Summersworth this year, the 20-foot, 22-foot minimum out onto the town road.
Yeah. Okay.
So everybody's different.
Yeah. No, I understand. John?
The other issue is that the board, my understanding is the board had a policy not to allow driveways onto that particular road. They weren't, this driveway would not have been allowed without permission from the Board of Selectmen. So the board is not only deciding the width of the driveway, they're actually also deciding, are they going to allow another driveway? He has another driveway further down the road on Bennett Hill Bridge Road, and he has a driveway out onto the tar road on the other side of his house, that his main entrance. So he's already got two. This is the third one that he added.
Sorry, I somehow got muted. Okay, anybody else want to speak to this?
Just for clarity, he says the town offices were closed due to COVID. I know that the building was closed, but was there not?
Wait, Chris, don't speak over top. Let her finish.
Sorry, Pam.
Did Pam freeze up on us?
Looks like it.
Yep.
Well, we're waiting for her. Chris, what'd you say? I didn't hear you.
If you go onto the website, all permits are accessible online.
Thank you.
Right. So a permit had been obtained.
Okay. Any other input?
Just because the building. So what I'm asking is, so a permit was accessible. It could have been done online, or it could have been done via phone calls, emails. The building being closed, I don't see that as a blockade to doing things the proper way and obtaining a permit. Which is what you're supposed to do. What everybody's supposed to do is get that permit and the approval. And if the public works foreman says 30 feet, 30 feet it is. And of course, if you are going onto a road, from what you just said, that Bennett Bridge Road was one that was not permitted new driveways on, I would want more information on that previous ruling by the select board before a determination here, because if we're saying no new driveways in the past, then to have one put in without permit seems a little egregious.
Okay. Matt, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I actually spoke with the property owner during this whole ordeal for him, and he was trying hard to get a hold of someone who could answer his questions, and he was trying unsuccessfully. So, the message we had been receiving during COVID was, as it pertains to permitting and building is and the like, is move forward, document your work, and it'll get squared away on the other side. So I don't think it's fair to punish him for doing what we effectively told him to do. Now, maybe it's not up to what the public works foreman would like to see right now, but we don't have that in, at least in terms of the width, we don't have that in our you know, it's not official. It's a preference under his purview, and I get that. But seeing as it was, you know, to me, this falls under things during COVID are going to be a little loose. And like, yes, I want things to move forward using the proper channels and doing things the right way. But you know, especially where Mr. Colby is saying that he feels like it's a workable situation, and this was done, I think, with the best of intentions under a bad situation. I'm hesitant to really slap his wrist for doing his best here.
Well, I don't want to slap his wrist, but when you say we're saying to people do the work and then get the permit after, who's we?
The governor.
And
The governor, yeah.
The governor said that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But would the governor have said that, or, you know, in regard to the previous statement about a new driveway on a road that wasn't going to have permitted new driveways? So,
But how was he
that would
supposed
be
to
my
know that we weren't
question.
permitting a new driveway on that road if he couldn't get someone to answer his questions? Correct?
No, that's a good point. That's a really, I mean, I'm not in a punishment mood. I'm more of a,
Yeah.
I want to get my T's crossed and my I's dotted as far as before you do something that's unpermitted, that you have done due diligence in trying to get your permits. And from what you, Matt, are saying is that he did. And from what Tim is saying is that it's a secondary use driveway, not a primary entrance. And as far as the 20-foot culvert, I believe it's 20 foot that's there right now. While it's inadequate to what our road agent is saying, as it's not primary use and there is other accessibility to emergency vehicles, I mean, it's a possibility. I just would like to be on record as saying I don't like it, but it's COVID.
Okay, Tim, how about you speak, and then we'll try to wrap this up.
And I'm sure when he put that house lot in there, he was told and signed a piece of paper that he has to maintain that entire road for his personal safety, because the town stops like, 50 feet above that driveway he just put in. So he's maintaining all that access road to his house for his own safety. That's not a town maintained road. That's why his mailbox is way up on that. So he knows the understanding. If something happens with the fire trucks, it's on him, because he built there and signed off on saying that his house is down on that road. So just like I said, he's going to run a tractor up and down that, and it's not going to be everyday use. So.
Okay, final comments. Any for you, Beth?
No, we knew when we didn't have a building inspector back in beginning of March. We knew that this was going to happen, and we were okay with that. We were okay that we didn't have someone doing doing the inspections. The offices were closed for a while. We knew all of that. So
you're saying we anticipated stuff like this might happen. Is that what you're saying?
Take
Probably-
pictures to verify and move on.
right.
Yeah.
We
Okay,
talked
Matt.
about this several times.
Sorry for cutting you off, Beth. Matt, final comments.
No, I'm good. I think we should need to approve it.
Okay, so Walter, go over the options, and then I'm going to ask for a motion.
So you can approve it as is, as an after the fact. You can require an extension of the width. You can deny it outright, or you can approve it subject to widening.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve it as is.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Discussion. Hearing none. Tim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Okay. Walter, what's
Thank you.
next?
So I want to report that the Bow Lake Bridge construction inspection was held on November 25th. Present was the DPW foreman, Chris Brown, Steve Ireland, the town engineer, and a representative from Earth Construction. There's just a couple of minor items that needed to be noted as far as the punch list is concerned. So I think we'll be getting a clean sign off on that very shortly. And we also have received our 50% share of the state share of the construction, which was $235,370. And we'll be seeing the invoice for the construction, I would say probably within the next maybe week or two. So that project is winding down, and I wasn't involved much, but to what I saw, it looks like the contractor did a great job, and I think it's a really nice bridge, great improvement for that area. So.
So Walter, before you move on, there's two questions I've got, and then I'll open it up for other questions. You mentioned the 50% match by the state, or 50% of what the state is going to provide. Was that the first half of the 50% or the second half of the 50%?
That's the first half.
Okay, when do we get the second half?
Once we submit a requisition after we paid the bill for the construction.
Okay, so I trust that you and Sandy will work out the cash flow issues on that.
Yes.
Okay, the second question is, did they spell my name correctly on the plaque?
H-A-L.
It's an acronym for something.
It's just teasing, but I know that we signed off on some kind of
It
plaque.
doesn't matter. You didn't want a plaque on there in the first place, so I just spelled your name right to begin with.
Now that it turned out good, I want my name.
Well, I have to
Put a
be
picture
honest
of
with
you
you.
there too.
I have to be honest with you. I didn't check under the bridge to see if that's where the plaque was, because I didn't notice it anywhere else.
Now, this was supposed to be the manufacturer's nameplate or something like
Yeah.
that. Not,
State of New Hampshire.
Ah,
yeah.
Should say man Michi Corp on it somewhere, but not a big deal.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions on the bridge? If not, Walter, what's next?
okay, I wanted to report that I represented the town of Northwood at the Lamprey Regional Solid Waste Cooperative Annual Meeting on Monday. Budgets for both the operating and the landfill closure were reviewed and approved for consideration for a public hearing that's scheduled for December 18th at 10 a.m. And the town's estimated share for 2021, the operating piece is $780.08. And the closure budget is $1,140.57. And I believe I sent you all the supporting documentation that went along that if you had any questions. So that'll be coming up on the 18th for the public hearing, and then there'll be a meeting in January to vote officially on those budgets for the coming year.
So questions on this, anybody? If not, I have a question related, not directly. When does our tipping contract run out?
I believe it is 2026, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay, so we have a little ways to go yet. Chris, do you by any chance know?
Hang on. Now try.
Sorry.
Yes, he's right. 2026.
2026. Okay. The reason I ask is the solid waste is a good component of our budget, and I just want to know if it's next year or not.
I can tell you we have an exceptional rate under that contract. $68.50 for MSW a ton is way below what current market value is. I think I ended up negotiating recently something in the low 90s.
Yeah.
It's almost
my
double.
previous position.
Yeah, so we just need to be aware of that and plan for that when the contract runs out.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody else have questions or comments? Pam? Oh, I think she was just.
Nope.
Okay, Walter, what's next?
So just some updated information on the Northfield,
Where's the cat?
the fire department command vehicle. Chief Tatros has confirmed that the fire rescue vehicle replacement expendable trust fund will have the funds available to purchase the vehicle as noted and approved in the CIP. So I didn't know with that information if there would be any board consideration to amend the draft article to say, funding from the expendable trust, or leave it as it was sent to the budget committee, which would fund it on taxation.
What's the board's pleasure on that? Anybody? Matt, go ahead.
I mean, I think if we can put it on an article with no tax impact, that greatly improves our chances of getting that passed. So as long as he's feeling good about the numbers in that fund, and you know, we had a good year this year, I think we'll have an even better year moving forward, would be my assumption. So I'd prefer to amend it if he's feeling like we can actually pay for it out of there.
Yeah, other comments? Tim?
Is that a pickup truck considered a fire truck? Because that fund is only for fire trucks. That's a command vehicle. So that might be a little bit of wording we need to look into.
Walter already did look into it. Walter, what's the word on that?
Well, the actual change that was made in terms of the name of the trust was the fire rescue vehicles. And so I did run it by town council just to get it, you know, an interpretation. And they confirmed that they would certainly consider it as a fire rescue vehicle.
So from a legal perspective, maybe that's okay. I guess, Beth, maybe I'm going to have to put you on the spot here. What's your recollection as to past practice?
I thought it was just ambulances and fire trucks.
I guess
It wasn't named.
Well, it's been 14 years, so it goes from before I was even in town.
So the Ford Explorer that we have now, what is it? 2007?
13, I thought he said.
2006.
Well, how was that bought?
That was the hand-me-down from the police department, wasn't it?
That I'm not sure either.
I thought, like, just like we can't buy like the Chris's pickup truck, you know, it has to be a big truck. So,
well, there's specific wording in each one of those warrants. That's why he talked to the lawyer. It all goes by the wording, and the wording is different in them.
I'm just worried about that. I mean, we were worried we weren't going to be able to pay the payment. That's why we extended out and did a 7-year lease versus a 5-year lease. And now.
Well, that was primarily on the other side. The ambulance is where we got pinched on that. I'm going to see if I can bring up my latest.
While you're looking for that, Hal, can I just, so I had asked the chief for a list of what was in the command vehicle, in the command car. So mobile radio, portable radio, ballistic equipment, hostile incident stop the bleed kit, first aid kit, oxygen, command and accountability board, hazardous material guidebook, emergency lights and siren, tablet computer, PPE for fire and medical, gloves, maps, air pack with personal thermal imager, hand lights and charger, portable radio, chargers. Like, I mean, it's basically got emergency equipment on board. It's not just a, you know, chief taxi. So I think the argument becomes fairly easy to make. There's a firefighter rescue kit in there, enhanced rehab supplies, fire extinguishers, hand tools, and Wi-Fi capabilities for the scene. So, you know, I don't think it's a tough argument to make that it is in fact a rescue vehicle.
I mean,
Okay.
I understand it's a rescue vehicle when he's coming from home, but if he's on shift, he would be responding with an ambulance or the fire truck.
Correct.
Right?
I would hope so. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I don't know if we can consider that a rescue vehicle, because he really would just be driving the truck to the station to get the fire truck or the ambulance.
Unless
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
If he was one of the responding people, he would be.
Right.
If he's an extra person, he would not be. He could go right there.
Right. Yeah, continue the discussion. I'm going to just check my spreadsheet here, but yes, where we got close was the capital reserve fund balance associated with the ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
On the equipment side, the lowest in the next, and just FYI, we went 7 years on the ambulance. We only went 5 years on the tanker.
I thought the fund though was, I could be wrong. I thought it was 70% for the fire truck, 30% for an ambulance.
Yes, 70% to the equipment and 30% to the ambulance. And that's where we're getting
What is
pinched.
this coming off as? Because they can't fight a fire, so it would have to come from the ambulance side.
Say that again?
So a pickup truck couldn't actually be called a fire truck. It would have to be because there's no hose, right? So it would be the rescue part, which would be the 30% of the fund.
Yeah, tell you the truth, Beth, on this, I'm going solely myself based on what the lawyer says. I mean,
Right, but the taxpayers are going to say that 70% fire, 30%
right.
Ambulance fund out of that fund. So how much is in the fund? How much is the truck? And where was he planning on taking that truck? The 48,000. I forget the price exactly. From the truck, was it from the 70% side or the 30% side?
70% side, and
but that was the fire truck part, right?
The 70% side, and the lowest that balance goes through this whole process is next year, 2021, assuming we make the first payment next year, a big first payment, or excuse me,
I thought we needed to replace engine 3 in 2022.
Yeah, well, let me just finish here. So the CFR balance after all the payments at the end of 2021 was projected to be $190,000. And then that grows to $215,000 over the course of the remaining 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So then in 2026, there is no payment. So then the numbers would really start to jump up. So I guess the other thing I'd add to the mix is if we did it as a purchase out of there, as Matt said, it wouldn't be any increase in taxes. And also we would probably save, at least based on that email the chief gave us, order of magnitude, maybe $5,000 in expenses for repairs this year.
But that vehicle just got inspected in September.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going by what the email.
So if any $5,000 worth of repairs, I'd be worried about where it got inspected and if.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm only going by what documentation I have. I mean,
no, I understand. Yeah. But if someone gave a sticker a month and a half ago and said it's going to be $5,000 worth of work, it shouldn't have got a sticker.
Well, I think the other things were not necessarily inspection related. My recollection is, yes, at some point next year, they're going to need tires. So that is inspection related, but practically everything else was, I thought there was like a starter in there or something, or I forget what all, but the rest of the stuff was not inspection related stuff to my best of my recollection.
You said the starter was going, the transmission was slipping, it's going to need brakes, need tires. Well, brakes and tires is just regular maintenance. So that's, I forget some of the other stuff.
Starters just go. Don't starters just stop working?
Yeah, it depends. Yes.
I've got the list that he sent us right here. Batteries, 2 tires, rocker panels, transmission slipping, rear frame rotted, rear brake pads, rotors, calipers, and brake lines, numerous oil leaks, transmission fluid, antifreeze. Numerous leaks, including oil, transmission fluid, and antifreeze, and a pinion seal.
If the frame is rotted and he put a sticker on it, that guy needs to.
Yeah. Okay. All I'm saying is, regardless of whether brakes and tires are inspection related and whether they should have passed or not, we're going to pay for them next year out of the operating budget. And I personally would prefer to avoid that, but I guess I'm telling you how I'd approach this. But if the board doesn't have the opinion that that's the best way, then we don't do it. So what we would need at this point is a motion to change the funding on the fire command vehicle from, what is it now, operating, well, a warrant, to the capital reserve fund.
And
I
Hal,
don't
you feel,
I don't feel comfortable doing this. The
Well,
taxpayers have thought for years it's 70-30% for fire trucks and ambulances.
Well, then, we just have to let it play out, Beth. So let's make a motion and you can vote, as you feel. So Matt, did you want to make a motion or not?
before I do, I just want to confirm. So you're comfortable based on your projections, the revenue projections, that this can be absorbed into that fund?
Well, what I said was, and I want to be very careful about the choice of my words here. Based on the calculations that we did at the time we were looking at the ambulance and the tanker, the CFR balance never goes lower than $190,000 over the whole term of the lease for the new tanker. That said, if we take money out, $50,000 round numbers, that's $50,000 that wouldn't be available to go for some other vehicle should that be on the list. And that I don't know. I have not studied the CIP out far enough to tell you. So I cannot answer that. But in terms of the funds being available, there is definitely funds available. And we would not have a problem on that side of the thing. What I think are the two factors that folks should weigh in their minds are, as Beth said, what's been sort of the feeling or the thought of folks in town and how they traditionally have viewed this. And then, again, do you want this, the expenses, again, regardless of what you call them, do you want those expenses in the operating budget next year or not? So that's in my mind, the two factors. So anybody want to make a motion, or do we want to let it sit as is?
I want to make the motion. I'm just looking for the wording of the warrant so I can get it correct. And if we don't have it.
Walter, do you want to help out on this, or should I speak?
November 10th.
Let me,
November 10th minutes.
yeah, if you look at the draft warrant that was approved, then we would simply add onto the warrant the language that said, set amount to be taken from the fire rescue vehicle replacement expendable trust fund.
All right, so I'll make the motion that way to change the language in the command car warrant to reflect that the funds will be taken out of the
Fire rescue vehicle
replacement special revenue fund established for this purpose.
I will second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to change the funding source for the command vehicle. Discussion. Tim.
Can Walter tell me again what the lawyer said about, the small pickup truck compared to the big fire trucks and ambulance like we've done in the past? What was the?
Yep. I simply asked, I told exactly what the chief was interested in replacing and what was being replaced with, and asked whether or not she felt that based on the description of the expendable fund, whether or not this would qualify, and she felt that it would qualify as a rescue vehicle, which met the definition of the fund.
Other questions or discussion?
So if we change it and it's taking 60,000 or so, whatever, out of this
45.
fund. How much?
45.
Okay, 45. That's 45 that we're gonna have to make up somewhere, like for like another fire truck or another ambulance or something like that later on down the line?
Yeah, if we don't have sufficient funds, yeah, that's correct. And that's what I,
And as it's read right now, without even like discussing it tonight, we're putting it in front of the taxpayers to vote on. That's how we worded it the last time, right? I just wanna-
yeah, so right
Okay.
now, it would be an up or down vote by the taxpayers. If it passes, we buy a new one. If it doesn't pass, we pay the repairs on the old one. And so Walter's bringing it up because it is an option for us. We don't have to do anything if we don't want. Just FYI, I got a text here. I'm going to repeat it. It says it's from Mark, and should he call in? Do we want to go on to some other stuff and give him a chance to join the meeting? Beth,
Matt, read that again.
I got a text from Mark.
No,
Can
not
I
that.
call in?
Matt, how was Matt wording his
So my motion was basically just to change the language around, adding that the funding for it is coming out of the
So
fire.
it should say though that in the past we have taken this and done 70% for the fire and 30% for an ambulance, and we're asking to now buy a pickup truck from that fund.
From the fire
If
rescue.
we're going to ask people to vote on something, they need to know exactly how we've been doing it in the past.
Say that again, Beth. You broke up.
Very deceptive. We're asking, I understand you want to ask if we can spend money from the fund to buy a pickup truck, so there's no tax impact. That sounds great. However, people need to realize that 70% of that fund has been going to fund fire trucks and 30% has been funding ambulances for the past umpteen years.
Right.
And that may put us behind on the next vehicle.
They what, please?
It may put us a year behind in purchasing the next fire truck or ambulance or wherever.
That's correct. And
Engine 3's due up in 2 years, so.
that's why I'm going to suggest that we ask Mark to come online.
Right, but I'm just saying that we need to have that somehow. It needs to be in the wording how it's been funded before.
No,
Because it's not, if not, we're just saying we're being deceptive. It's bad. We're going to be lucky if people even decide to vote on paying a payment on a fire truck right now.
Where does it say 70/30? Does it
That's
say
how
it
it's
in
always
the?
been before, Pam.
That was decided by a town vote. That's etched in stone unless it's changed by, I think, a supermajority of the town.
So it is, it does, okay.
70/30 is fixed. It's not going to change, certainly not in this election cycle.
Right. So Beth's point is valid. What side you taking it from?
We've always said it's coming from the equipment side, the fire rescue equipment side.
30%? The 30% or the
Fire is
70?
70% side,
The 70% side.
yes. John, you want to try to clarify?
if I may, Hal, in the two articles that you approved this year, you just said, and that's the way Matt worded it, was to said funds to come from the Fire Rescue Vehicle Replacement Special Revenue Fund. You didn't say 70% for fire. You didn't say 30% for ambulance. You just said it was coming from the Fire Rescue Vehicle Replacement Special Revenue Fund for both of them.
Right, because it was a fire truck or an ambulance. It wasn't a pickup truck.
Well, this is
There's
a
a
fire
diff-
command vehicle.
It's a pickup truck that you're asking to take from the fire side, which can't put out a fire. It can help rescue side because he has the, his go bag and all that stuff.
Not every fire truck has to be able to have hose on it.
No, some of them have lots of water and it's called a tanker.
They have hose.
Okay. Other questions or other points? Do we need Mark on or not? That doesn't sound like it to me. But do you want me to have him come on?
I don't need them.
I don't think so. Okay. So Matt, you made the motion. Do we have somebody second it?
I second.
Okay, so now I guess we are in discussion. Any further discussion?
So, you know,
Your call.
we already had it on the warrant. All we're looking to do is change where the money's coming from and reduce next year's tax burden by taking it out of the fund. I think if we're worried about next year's tax rate, which we should be, you know, this is a great chance for us to not have this coming up in our next cycle of property taxes. So it makes perfect sense to me. If down the road, if we gambled and lost, then we maybe need to cover $20,000 on a different vehicle down the road, which, you know, it's no different than I was supportive of paying for it out of budget. So, or on a warrant. So it really, to me, doesn't make that big of a difference. But if we can keep next year's tax rate down, let's do that.
Okay. Tim?
Is that how we bought the police pickup truck?
The police have a separate vehicle fund.
Okay. So, and then
but
we talked
also-
about like the pickup truck for Chris. Like, is that this generally the same idea that we would do for him?
Well, since it's come up, I'll just say, we had talked about if we have multiple options for how to deal with that pickup truck also. And we did talk about either trying to put it into the budget next year or putting it, you know, on the budget the following year, or given some of the discussion where if we had it, we might be able to actually save some money this year on contractors. Maybe we buy it out of the money we have left over at the end of this year. So there was all kinds of options on that. What I think we need to keep in mind is that all these different things, you know, sort of like, you know, we have all these different capital reserve funds, and they are written up specifically one way or the other, and we need to, you know, go by the wording on those. And I guess let me just clarify where I think Beth is coming from so that everybody is clear on this. The capital reserve fund is for fire and rescue equipment. Well, I think where her concern is, and Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we say we're going to take it out of the 70% side, that has traditionally been for equipment like a tanker. Now, that doesn't mean that the lawyer didn't say that we could take it out of that fund. But I believe, Beth, what you're saying is if we were to do this, you would propose taking it out of the other side, which is the 30% side, or take it equally out of both, or something like that. Is that what I'm saying? Is that what you're saying, or am I getting it twisted up?
I mean, we decided the 70-30 for fire trucks and for ambulances. So, I mean, eventually we're going to need, I mean, we live in a town that has 7 bodies of water. We should look at having a boat, right? Like they do have in Stratford. Where would that money come from? A boat rescue thing. So if we're going to start buying other things besides fire trucks and ambulances from this fund, the taxpayer should have a say in that. And what else are we going to do? Maybe we set aside 10% and that goes to another fund to purchase stuff like trucks and water rescue vehicles, ATVs for, the lost hiker at the meadows.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I guess in my mind, the way I looked at it was we have a general fund for fire rescue equipment, which includes ambulances, fire trucks, and the like. And since the one side is very specifically labeled ambulance, just in my mind, I immediately just said, well, it would obviously, in my mind, have to come out of the other side because the one side is very specific ambulance, nothing else. And so that's the way I had always interpreted it and thought about it. But, you raised a point, and I can accept that. I can understand that logic. So I think you're probably looking at it from a slightly different perspective than me. We didn't hear from Pam. Let's hear from her, and then we'll vote.
I'm here. I see the command vehicle as important. I mean, I hear Beth on that the chief would be ambulance or fire truck, but there are times when he's responding from home and ambulance, fire truck already on the scene. He is carrying valuable equipment that is needed and utilized for public safety. There's a lot of concern there. I do see this as a voters issue. And I concur that I would rather not have an increase in taxes from it. I don't see a problem with the use of the fund for the command vehicle. As far as the future goes, for other type items like Beth was mentioning, that we've got to consider it, as it arises.
Okay, and Tim, how do you feel? Do you want to speak to this, or are you ready to vote?
No, I mean, I think just, it's been like that for years and years and years, and I think that the taxpayers should know that there's different avenues now of what people are looking for. Like she said, I mean, it's always been 70-30. Like we ran through this a couple of months ago when Chris was looking at a big 6-wheeler or the next 550 or the in-between truck, on all the departments. So I guess it's something that the wording in the general fund, we took the money out of the Centennial Fund and put it like in, the Beanhole Bash 250 fund. So everything is, we just got reevaluated and assessed. So everything is finally coming up to 2020, 2021. And some of the wording is back in the 1920s. So I guess we all just need to get, caught up. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, but I don't know. I guess I'm still learning myself. So.
Well, we certainly have some, options, and I think, the deliberation is complicated by the fact we're trying to deal with, concerns about the operating budget and all those.
I think we should look at the fact that maybe we shouldn't be breaking it up by 70-30. Maybe that should be something we should ask the voters. Should we take that 70 and bring it down to 60 and put 10% or 15% into other vehicles, other rescue type apparatus? I mean, we have lost hikers all the time at the meadows. If someone was actually hurt, I mean, not like medevac hurt, but
Yeah.
there are probably other things that we need to think about purchasing, not now, but in the future. It might be a 4-wheeler, might be a snowmobile, a water rescue something. So just something to think about.
Well, I think that really comes to a larger discussion, Beth, in terms of, I'm just going to say it, how much trust the voters would put in the select board. Because for the best flexibility, you wouldn't have this 30-70 split. But because there was concerns that it might all go one way or the other way, a split was put in place. And as we add more splits, I'm worried that that's just going to complicate future funding even more and more. So we're going to have to deal with that situation and stuff.
Right, but they put in that 70-30 because they want us to buy fire trucks and ambulances.
Right. At least spend that much on fire trucks. Exactly. Yeah. So we're stuck with it where it is now, and we can only make a choice for the current budget. And like I said, if we vote this down, it just goes and would be just part of what would be raised as additional taxes if it passes. If it doesn't, then we're just going to spend the whatever it costs to keep it running. And we just move on to the following year and see how best to play it then. So up for vote at this point is changing the funding on the purchase of the command vehicle to say said funds to be raised via the capital reserve fund for fire and rescue equipment. No.
Muted, John.
Oh, John.
John corrected us, but he was on mute.
Oh, sorry. John?
Yeah, it has to, I think, what is worded in the other warrant articles is Fire Rescue Special Revenue Fund, that it's not a capital reserve. It's a
Correct.
Oh,
special
sorry,
revenue.
okay. Okay, so everybody's clear what we're voting on? We're not voting to take the warrant off, we're just voting on how we fund it, whether we change that. So, Matt, how do you vote?
Yes.
Beth,
No.
Pam,
Yes.
Tim,
No.
and I'm going to vote yes. So we voted to change it. Now we need to vote on whether to recommend it.
Right.
So I'm going to just ask for a straight up vote. I don't think we need to discuss it any further. This is a vote to recommend. So Beth, how do you vote?
No.
Pam,
Yes.
Tim,
No.
Matt,
Yes.
and
No,
Hal.
people.
Yes. Okay, so we changed the funding source. We didn't change the view on it. We'll see how it plays out with the voters. And if ever there was a case for making a good write-up on the voter's guide, I think this is one of them. Because we got to be clear why we express this and just let the folks make a decision on it. Okay, Walter, what's next?
Okay, so I just wanted to continue with a couple of more things. I won't ask for any more votes. On the public safety facility site warrant article, I spoke with Beth and she said that the committee's response was very positive and she may want to add to that comment.
Yeah, so we met, we reviewed lots of land. We're looking at town land. So we're hoping that we can do something. We spent hours looking at stuff. We're not meeting in December only because 3 of the members on my committee are also on the budget committee. So they were they're like, we're gonna be pretty out straight with doing
Yeah.
budget for both school and town. So we're meeting again, I think the Wednesday after Martin Luther King Day, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, good, good. Okay, well, we do have a warrant for land. We'll see how that goes. Even if it doesn't pass, we at least have it before the voters and keep it on their minds.
Yes,
So,
and that we discussed that. It probably won't pass, but I think we just have to keep it every year, keep on asking and informing them so they don't think that the problem is resolved.
right, exactly. Yeah, I think good strategy in my mind. Okay, Walter, what else?
I just want to advise you that our Human Services Director, David Allen, has resigned his position effective this week. He's accepted a similar full-time position in Dover. And right now I'll be covering that position and for the time being.
Okay, so let's just be clear. David was doing this on a per call basis. Is that correct?
Yep, basically on a per diem. Yes, basically.
Yeah, so when somebody indicated they needed to speak with him, they dialed his number, talked with him, made arrangements for a meeting, and he carried through based on that. And
yep.
So we lose that, I guess, basically per need service. And are you saying you're going to cover it for now?
Yeah, there'll be no change in service.
Okay.
Fully capable and experienced to do it.
Great, thank you.
I guess we accept that with regret, though.
Oh, certainly.
Yes, please. Yeah, because he was very good with everybody. Very good.
And thank you, Walter, for taking on that yet again another responsibility. We appreciate it.
Well, talking to David, he said that the demand has been very, very little, and so obviously, if that changes significantly, then we'll just have to revisit about reassigning that, or perhaps training someone else in the office to do it as well, or look for another independent person. So,
Beth, you want to speak to something on that?
Yes. Walter, did he happen to mention whether or not the food pantry needed anything else before the holidays, or?
He didn't mention that. I know that they've been receiving, we've had donations funneled through us and so forth, but he didn't mention that there was a need out there right at the moment that he was aware of.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then regarding just an update on the DPW pickup truck replacement, Chris did have two estimates. He solicited those. One is for a Dodge 2500 crew cab with a 9-foot plow and sander. And one is a Ford F350 crew cab plow, sander. And they came in at a little over $50,000 for the Dodge and a little over $57,000 for the Ford. This will be a discussion item for a future meeting, either on the 15th or the 29th, when you can consider whether or not you want to go forward with purchasing this from the unexpended funds from the FY20 operating budget, as has been discussed before.
Beth?
So was there a reason why we're looking at crew cabs when we only have a crew of 2? Just curious. It's a 2 crew, so.
I think Chris can answer that if he's still on the line.
He's there, but he's muted. You're
I
muted,
didn't know
Chris.
if it was like pretty much the same price, or I mean, I don't know.
So the amount of impact for the money wise, it was minimal, but the biggest thing is transporting my guys for safety trainings for the transfer station as well. So it's something I can utilize for that as well.
So there was not really a huge jumping in having the back seat then. Yeah.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I looked at replacing my truck,
No, that.
it didn't make much difference.
I think in some cases they're charging more for the regular cabs than they are the crew cabs because they make so many of them.
Yeah, probably.
And then I did want to just finally clarify that question that you had raised, Hal, earlier about the operating budget being voted on by the board prior to sending it to the budget committee. I did confirm that that is in the minutes of the November 17th board meeting on page 3, lines 37 through 40.
Okay, so just to bring the rest of the board up to speed, I got a voice message from Ginger asking us to confirm if we had indeed voted on the overall operating budget. The reason she raised the question was that the warrant for the operating budget did not show up on the list of warrants. We had all the other warrant items, but we didn't have that one. And so she just wanted to make sure we voted on it. And so, Walter, we voted on the number and we voted on whether or not to recommend it. Is that correct?
It was basically to send the proposed budget to the budget committee was the motion.
I guess.
Wasn't that because you said it was their budget, Hal? Didn't you say?
No, we sent,
I'm not sure you'd send anything you wouldn't recommend, but.
oh, I guess, yeah, it really goes on to the budget committee and then,
I thought you said something like that.
yeah, because I mean, this is our recommendation to them.
Yeah.
It's for them to
So
consider.
So should those minutes be, we recommend the proposal or to send it to them? I wasn't here, so.
We could revote it right now to recommend the budget. It probably
Sure.
wouldn't be a terrible idea.
Just to cover.
Yeah, would you mind making that motion or somebody make that motion, please?
Let me find the numbers.
You have the numbers right there?
Yeah, I think you're right, Tim. Then there's no question and, you know,
Page 3, Matt, of the 17th, line 32. Get those minutes in front of you?
Yep. Hang on. I mean, if you got it right there, Tim, go ahead and make the motion.
I make a motion to recommend the 2021 budget to the budget committee for $3,947,436, which is an increase of $266,144.
Second.
Okay. So
So was the motion to recommend? I wasn't completely paying attention, Tim. I'm sorry. I was reading the numbers.
Yes, yep.
Yes. Second.
yeah, this way the wording is exactly the way Ginger said, as opposed to maybe the minutes are questionable. Walter, I think we're just going to do the belts and suspenders approach here, just so there's no questions.
Tim, can you say the number again, please?
The
What?
$3,947,436, which is an increase of $266,144.
Thank you.
It's on line, page 3, line 32 to 5 on the November 17th minutes.
Thank you.
So basically what we're doing is reconfirming this, but putting it in the wording that Ginger requested.
They probably need that for Saturday.
Well, she seemed to think so. I mean, Walter said we covered it, but, rather than end up in an argument on Saturday.
It can't hurt.
Oh, no, I'm off. That's fine.
So Pam, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tim?
Yep.
Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. Okay, Matt.
So I actually chatted with Ginger today. She works her way down the list when she can't get a hold of people. So I actually picked up. The other thing that she wanted us to discuss tonight while we're handling Mrs. Dole's questions here, just making sure that department heads have Zoom info and know that we're starting on Saturday if they want to be available for the budget hearing. So if we can make sure, Walter, that gets out to each of our departments.
Will do.
Okay, so Matt, I'm going to ask a very specific question. And those comments imply that she has decided to go full Zoom. Is that correct?
It's my understanding. Yep.
Okay. She had said at our last meeting, she was still on the fence on that, but leaning towards Zoom. So I guess that's.
When I chatted with her, she was on her way to buy a new computer in order to make the meeting run more smoothly. So I think that's a pretty good indicator.
Yeah, that was all my message. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Again, we just want to make sure things go smoothly. And Matt, I'll volunteer to her, but if also you could volunteer to help with some of this stuff, just like you were helping me tonight.
Yep, already have.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So Beth and then John, maybe?
I just have a question. So do we need to type up a new letter, just like with all the warrants like listed? Just email it to the budget committee?
Just update the one we
it's
sent them already.
It was too late to mail. Can we just email them though? A new one, having that first and then have the list?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then John?
Yeah, on the town website for the agenda, it says during this time, the Northwood Budget Committee will meet electronically using Zoom and YouTube.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I do have to say, I found it very difficult in mixed media. I really struggled with it, and I was a little bit concerned. I know it's difficult with the Zoom also, but Matt, I think if we just, make sure we help where we can, or at least offer to help. I'm sure Linda and Susan will be there too, so we'll get through it, but let's all work together on that.
Yeah, and tonight's meeting, I think, is a few bumps in the road, but it shows that we can get public input.
Yeah, mostly bumps on my side, but yes, thank you. Okay, Walter, other items?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Tim, did you want to bring something else up?
If Chris is still around, the trees on Ridge Road and Tasker Hill, are they done, Chris?
Oh,
I know they came, they left, they came, they left. I just want to make sure they're done.
I agree.
So yes, they did complete everything that they were talking about. all the marked trees, plus I took additional, couple additional to bring up that 5,000 that we had budgeted for.
No, I just want to send a shout out to Northern Tree Service. I mean, I go by there every day, coming and going home to my house. There's a few piles of sawdust next to each stump, and that's it. There's no branches, no
Oh,
leaves, sticks. They did a top-notch job cleaning up. So
good.
if you ever need a recommendation, I would be more than happy, for the other town work. Those guys did excellent work.
Good.
Nothing damaged to the road. I mean,
Yeah.
everything's cleaned up more than I expected.
Did you see the size of that crane?
Yeah.
Beth?
So were all those trees in the town right away? Because I had heard that we took a tree down from someone's family cemetery.
No.
No, that's what I heard.
No, every single tree was inside the right of way.
So
some
we
of them
did
were-
take down a tree in someone's
Maybe some-
cemetery?
Hold on one second. I gotta go.
The only cemetery was down on, they dealt with was down on Casca Hill Road, and that the chimney sweep lady,
Yeah.
she had, she took all the wood and she was very happy. I talked to them the other day, so.
Okay.
I don't see
No,
any other
every-
little cemetery unless it was just a rock out behind somebody's property line that wasn't, they're calling it a cemetery, but
Okay.
So
Well,
no,
I think
every
we
single
did-
tree was in the town easement. Some of them were borderline trees, which meaning half were on town property, half were, or I shouldn't say town property, but in the town easement and on personal property, which I'd spoke to every homeowner first and verified every tree with them first in the taking of them.
Good customer relations.
that hill's opened up now. Looks good.
Yeah, well, Tim, you promised we won't even have to plow that because the sun's going to hit it.
That's right.
I don't know.
Well, at least that's what I remember you saying.
Now we're gonna cut down on the,
I was gonna say, we'll probably mitigate the salt and sand that goes on it.
Okay. Let's see. Walter, did you finish up?
Yes.
Okay, then we need to move on to
Old
the
business.
old business. So can you walk us through what we got to do with the trustees? What motion do you need for that?
So we have one new request for the reimbursement of the expenditure of $5,906 for Lakes Region Public Access from the Cable Expendable Trust Fund. And then we also need to amend the motion that was approved back on 11/10, which had to do with the library paving and the HVAC system. The amount should have been basically $1,000 more. So we need to amend that to the $28,686.95.
Okay, so on the latter, did the bill change or did we just forget to carry the one when we were doing the addition?
My mistake, I was thinking it was 11,000, didn't double check. It was 12.
Okay. Which one?
Thanks, John.
Okay, give us a request for a motion.
So basically, you're just going to move to request from the trustees of the trust funds the amount of $5,906 from the Cable Expendable Trust Fund for the expense of the Lakes Region Public Access.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
Did we already get reimbursed for that though? No?
Not that I'm aware of. I know we paid them. We paid Lakes Region.
Yeah, we paid them. Now we need to get it out of the trust fund.
Yes.
I'm sure the trustees won't send it to us twice.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion to request $5,906 from the trustees of the trust fund to reimburse the expenditure for the Lakes Region Public Access with funds coming from the Cable Expendable Trust Fund.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second by Tim. Further discussion?
If we haven't already received it. We should put that somewhere.
If we have already received the money from the trust fund,
Yeah.
Then it means we already voted it once and this is superfluous, right?
Right.
Okay. Okay. So then, Tim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yeah.
Pam,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Okay, so I guess next we're looking for a motion to amend the request that we voted on November 10th from 27,686 to 28,686. And these funds will be coming out of the
Facilities Committee,
yes. That's why I was hesitating. It's the facilities
Trust.
fund, is it not?
it's
Yes.
coming out of the facilities, yes.
Yes. Okay. So do I have a motion to that effect, Beth?
I have a question. It says for paving HVAC. The HVAC doesn't heat the basement. Chris was going to get us a quote. Remember, we were gonna call the company because
Yeah.
it's in the basement.
Yeah, but I think we have to pay what's
I
been
know,
done
I'm
already.
asking, I want to know if we got the quote yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, Beth. Is he still on? Or Walter, do
He
you
was
know?
dealing with one of his kids.
I haven't seen the quote yet.
Okay, well, we need to follow up on that then.
Mhm.
That's for sure.
Just because it's getting cold and
Yeah,
the basement where the kitchen is and that's where the bathroom is plumbing down there.
yeah. Yep. Okay, so that one's on you, Walter.
Mhm. Got it.
Okay, so do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Tim?
Yep.
And Hal is yes. Okay. Walter, anything else under old business that came up?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, and I see there's no new business. So we're gonna move on to Citizens Forum. Is anybody that's on the line interested in speaking for Citizens Forum? If so, somehow identify yourself. We'll give you a couple minutes to either use
Sorry
the
about that.
features on the Zoom or I'm not seeing anybody. Oh,
Can we ask Chris the question since he's here now?
yeah, go ahead. Chris?
Chris, you want to? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. Chris, did we find, did we contact the people that did the HVAC for the library about doing the zone 2 in the basement yet?
I'm not aware of that, no. No, I thought that was already in the workings.
No, we asked you to call them because it has to be that same company or else our warranty would be null and void.
So it sounds like, Walter, you and Chris are gonna have to coordinate on this and get this going, because I think it's
Yeah, I'll
best.
have to talk to Walter on that tomorrow, but no,
Yeah.
that I believe that actually did slip my mind, Beth.
Okay, thank you.
Well, actually, I think Donna was involved, so maybe talk to Donna at the library. 'cause I
Yeah,
thought-
that's what I was gonna say. It might not just be the only parties here.
Right.
Before it gets really cold and we're lucky right now it's still warm.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
have a coat drive next time.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, I'm not seeing anybody yelling, well, yelling's the wrong word.
Yeah.
Indicating that they want to speak. So at this point, Walter, is there anything that we need to go into non-public on?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to go into non-public under what, Walter?
Small letter A, personnel.
Personnel. Do I have a motion to go into non-public session under personnel?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Beth,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Okay, so
should Susan transfer a host to Matt so he could then put people in the waiting room?
She already did it. Look at that.
Okay, great. How about a
Do you
3-minute
want Paul or myself to remain, Walter?
I'm sorry?
You want Paul to remain? You want me to remain?
You can, John. Paul's not necessary on this one.
Okay.
Just Walter, do we expect to be taking any votes at the end of this?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
So for folks
have
who
a good
want
night, everyone.
to come back into the public meeting, I'll be placing people in the waiting room. You're welcome to stay there and I'll bring you back in once we're coming out of non-public.
Okay. So,
It won't be long.
Do we have like, oh, not long? I was gonna ask like for 3 minutes.
we're taking a 3-minute bio break. I'm sorry. We voted on this, correct?
Where's John going? We haven't voted yet. Get him back here.
No,
He's got a head start.
I think we did vote on it, didn't we?
You voted.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
that's what I'm saying. I'm losing my concentration. I got to go to the restroom.
Okay,
Let's
all right.
vote to go into non-public. We did, right? Vote to go into
Yes.
non-public?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, okay.
So everybody's kicked out. All
3
right, be
minutes.
back in a minute.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, we for certain need to wait for Walter since he's the one telling us what we're going to discuss.
Well, I'm glad I reviewed my minutes because I got my package in the mail on Monday, seeing how I missed the last meeting that I was headed to the town hall tonight. If I didn't read my minutes and said we're going remote, nobody wanted to let me know we were going back to Zoom.
Oh,
I put everything that, well, you.
well, you could have used your device at town hall because you have a key fob.
Hello.
Well, actually, now that you say that, that was one of the things, Pam, that we discussed, that perhaps, if you wanted to, you could go to town hall and use the web service there, which might be better than your house. It would mean going out, but.
I'm not going to pay you mileage, though.
Oh, what a perfect
Now you
moment
just
for
kicked
her to
her
get
out
kicked
now.
out of the meeting.
Now she left.
Gone.
She lost service and disappeared.
She's going to the town hall right now. Now we have to wait for her.
Are we still live on YouTube? It looks like we are.
Oh boy, it is.
Wow, who's the host?
I don't even know how to stop that. Let me That's the recording. Let me see if I
Good
can.
catch, Johnny.